The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with noise. Hundreds of alien voices filled the air as delegates argued and voted. Ambassador Kang Wu sat in his chair, watching the chaos with tired eyes. He had been coming to these meetings for 5 years now. 5 years of fighting for basic rights. 5 years of being told that humans were too young, too dangerous, too different. Today felt different, though. Today felt final. The Vrex delegate stood up, his blue skin shining under the chamber lights. His voice boomed across the room as he read from a glowing tablet. The council has decided. Humans will be limited to mining operations only. No more trade agreements. No more technology sharing. No more military cooperation. Park Jin felt her hands shake with anger. She sat at the human trade desk watching 3 years of careful work get destroyed with a few words. She had built relationships with dozens of alien traders. She had learned their languages, understood their customs, helped them make billions of credits. Now they wouldn't even look at her. The vote began. One by one, the alien delegates raised their hands or clicked their voting devices. The Zethrans voted yes. The Korthans voted yes. Even the Malari, who had seemed friendly just last week, voted yes. Park Jin counted the votes in her head. They didn't need to count them all. Humans had lost again. Li Do watched his communication screens with growing worry. Messages were flooding in from human colonies across 12 star systems. People were scared. They were angry. But underneath all that fear and anger, something else was building. Something that made Li Do's stomach feel tight. The humans were getting tired of this. "The vote is final," announced the council speaker, a tall being made of what looked like living crystal. "Humans will have 30 days to comply with the new restrictions." The chamber erupted in celebration. Aliens cheered and congratulated each other. Finally, they had put the troublesome humans in their place. The humans were too unpredictable, too creative, too willing to break rules. Now they would be safely contained to the mining worlds where they couldn't cause problems. Ambassador Kang Wu stood up slowly. The chamber didn't notice at first. They were too busy celebrating. But gradually the noise died down as aliens realized the human ambassador was on his feet. "The Human Federation formally acknowledges this decision," Kang Wu said. His voice was calm and clear. No anger, no pleading, no threats, just simple acceptance. The chamber fell completely silent. This wasn't what they expected. Usually when the council made decisions like this, the affected species would argue. They would beg for mercy. They would threaten to leave the council. The humans just accepted it. Park Jin started packing her files. She moved with calm efficiency, placing each document in its proper folder. She had spent months preparing these trade proposals. Now they were just paper. Li Do shut down his communication array. The flood of angry messages from human colonies could wait. Nam Gi, the human military advisor, closed his tactical displays and gathered his reports. "Is that all?" asked the Vrex delegate. He seemed confused by the lack of drama. "That's all," Kang Wu replied. "We will begin compliance immediately." The humans filed out of the chamber in perfect order. No shouting, no dramatic exits. They simply left. As they walked through the corridors of the council building, aliens stared at them with puzzled expressions. This wasn't how defeated species usually behaved. Outside the council building, Nam Gi caught Ambassador Kang's arm. "Sir, I sent the preliminary orders an hour ago. Operation Exodus can begin within 48 hours. Kang Wu nodded. "Good. Make sure every human facility receives the message. We have 30 days to comply with their restrictions. That should be more than enough time." "What about our trade partners?" Park Jin asked. "Some of them will try to contact us." "Let them contact us," Kang Wu said with a small smile. "We'll be very polite. We'll thank them for their business over the years. We'll wish them well." Li Do looked worried. "Sir, the messages from our colonies are getting more intense. People want to know what we're going to do. Some are talking about fighting." "There will be no fighting," Kang Wu said firmly. "We're not going to war. We're not going to make threats. We're simply going to comply with the council's decision. exactly as they asked. They reached their transport ship. As they climbed aboard, Park Jin looked back at the council building. Through the tall windows, she could see the aliens still celebrating their victory. They had no idea what was about to happen. The ship lifted off and headed for Earth. Behind them, the council delegates continued their celebration. They had finally solved the human problem. The troublesome species would be contained and controlled. The galaxy would be peaceful again. In his private quarters, Ambassador Kang Wu opened a secure communication channel. His image appeared on screens in human facilities across the galaxy. Military bases, research stations, trade outposts, mining operations, agricultural colonies. "This is Ambassador Kang Wu," he said quietly. "As of today, the Galactic Council has restricted humanity to mining operations only. All other activities are forbidden. We will comply with their decision fully. Operation Exodus begins now." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Pack everything. Take every piece of technology, every research file, every innovation we've shared with them. Leave nothing behind except empty buildings. We have 30 days. The message ended. Across human space, people began to move. Not in panic, not in anger, but with the calm efficiency that humans did their best work with. They had been preparing for this day for months. Now it was time to go. On the council station, the celebration continued late into the night. The aliens toasted their victory with exotic drinks and made plans for dividing up human trade routes. None of them noticed the small smile on Ambassador Kang Wu's face as his ship disappeared into hyperspace. The humans were leaving, all of them, and they were taking everything with them. The evacuation began at dawn across 12 star systems. No sirens wailed, no emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves. Human families simply started packing their belongings with the same quiet efficiency they brought to everything else. On Kepler 442b, Kim So stood in the main control room of the massive hydrogen processing plant. Around her, human engineers worked in perfect coordination, dismantling equipment that had taken 3 years to build. Every bolt, every circuit, every piece of advanced technology was being carefully removed and packed for transport. "How long? For the fusion reactors?" Kim So asked her team leader. 18 hours, came the reply. "We're taking the containment fields apart piece by piece. The aliens never understood how they worked anyway." Kim So nodded. The Korthans who ran this planet had become rich from human hydrogen processing. They sold the fuel to ships across the galaxy. Without human technology, their fancy processing plant would become an empty building full of machinery they couldn't operate. 3 systems away, Choi Min coordinated the withdrawal from the Andorian trade stations. Her logistics teams had turned evacuation into an art form. Ship after ship arrived at the loading docks, filled with human personnel and equipment, then departed for destinations that weren't on any council star chart. The Andorian merchants watched with growing concern. They had built their entire economy around human agricultural exports. Human-designed farming machines had increased their crop yields by 300%. Human genetic modifications had created new types of fruits that sold for incredible prices across the galaxy. "Where are you taking the seed banks?" asked Veltar, the chief Andorian trader. He had worked with humans for 4 years and considered himself a friend. "We're taking them home," Choi Min replied politely. "The council has restricted us to mining operations. We must comply." "But what about our farming contracts? What about the trade agreements?" "I'm sorry, but those agreements are no longer valid. Under council restrictions. We wish you well in your future endeavors." Veltar watched another human transport ship lift off, carrying away the agricultural scientists who had made his people wealthy. He tried to contact other human facilities but received only the same polite message every time. "We wish you well." On the research frontier, Young Ho led the evacuation of humanity's most secret projects. The quantum tunneling experiments that could revolutionize space travel, the zero-point energy research that promised unlimited power, the biological enhancement programs that had started to unlock human potential. His teams had spent months preparing for this day. Every important experiment had been documented and packed. Every prototype had been disassembled and shipped to new facilities in the unexplored regions beyond Council space. They left behind empty laboratories and obsolete equipment. "What about the joint research projects?" asked his Zethran counterpart, Dr. Zilmoth. "We were so close to a breakthrough in dimensional physics." "I'm afraid those projects must be terminated," Young-Ho said. "Council restrictions don't allow us to continue. Perhaps you can complete the research on your own." Dr. Zilmoth stared at the equations on his computer screen. Without human theoretical physicists to explain them, they might as well have been written in an unknown language. The Zethrans were excellent at following established procedures, but they had never been good at creative thinking. Back on Earth, Yun-Ai managed the most delicate operation of all. Humans worked in hundreds of integrated council facilities. They served as engineers, doctors, teachers, and advisors. Getting them all out without triggering legal complications required careful planning. She used every bureaucratic loophole she could find. Routine personnel transfers, family emergencies, educational opportunities, medical leave. Each human left their position with proper documentation and polite farewells. Their alien colleagues barely noticed at first. "Dr. Kim is taking a sabbatical," became a common phrase. "Engineer Park has been transferred. Advisor Lee is pursuing advanced studies." Only when the positions stayed empty did the aliens realize something was wrong. But by then, the humans were already gone. The most shocking withdrawal came from the joint military installations. Commander Bae-Jun had served with the Council fleet for 8 years. He had earned the respect of alien officers from dozens of species. His tactical innovations had saved countless lives in battles against pirates and hostile entities. "You're really leaving?" asked Admiral Thekvar, a Vrex officer who had become a close friend. "But we're partners. We fight together." "The Council has decided that humans should be restricted to mining operations," Bae-Jun replied. "We must respect their decision." "This is madness. You know we need human tactical thinking. Your strategic innovations have revolutionized our military doctrine." Bae-Jun packed his personal belongings into a small case. "I'm sure you'll do fine. Without us, the Council believes you will." Within 3 weeks, every human ship had departed Council military bases. They took their tactical knowledge with them. The Council's combined fleet, which had relied heavily on human innovation for maintenance and strategy, suddenly found itself operating at 60% efficiency. Maintenance schedules that humans had optimized began to fail. Tactical doctrines that required human adaptability became useless. Weapons systems that had been upgraded with human engineering started showing problems. But the humans were gone, and they had taken their knowledge with them. The last human transport ship crossed the border of Council space exactly 29 days after the restrictions were announced. Behind them, they left empty facilities, confused alien partners, and a growing sense that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. On the Council station, representatives from various species began to contact human facilities. They wanted to discuss trade agreements, research partnerships, military cooperation. They received only automated responses. "Thank you for your interest. Humanity is now restricted to mining operations per Council decision. We wish you well in your future endeavors." The Vrex tried to access human military databases. They found empty servers. The Zethrans attempted to continue research projects. They found that critical data was missing. The Andorians sought to maintain trade relationships. They discovered that human agricultural technology required constant human oversight to function. Slowly, the reality began to sink in. The humans hadn't just left. They had taken everything with them. Every innovation, every improvement, every creative solution they had contributed to galactic civilization was gone. The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked for. Humans were now restricted to mining operations only. They would no longer interfere in galactic affairs. They would no longer disrupt established procedures with their unpredictable creativity. The galaxy was finally safe from human influence. In the empty human facilities, automated systems continued to run for a few more days before shutting down. The last messages they broadcast were always the same. Humanity wishes the Council well in its future endeavors. Then there was silence. The first signs of trouble appeared in the Outer Rim territories just 2 weeks after the humans left. Songhai monitored the situation from humanity's new command center deep in the Veil Nebula, watching sensor readings that told a story the Council wasn't ready to hear. Krillian raiders had always been a problem on the trade routes. They attacked merchant ships, stole cargo, and disappeared into asteroid fields before help could arrive. For years, the Council had struggled to catch them. Their rigid patrol patterns and predictable tactics made them easy for the raiders to avoid. Then humans had joined the patrol system. They didn't follow the standard patterns. They thought like pirates, anticipated their moves, set traps where no one expected them. The Krillian raids dropped by 70% within 6 months. Now the humans were gone. "Ma'am, we're seeing increased raider activity in sectors 7 through 12, reported her aide. "The Council patrol ships are following their old patterns." Again, Songhai nodded grimly. Without human tactical thinking, the Council forces had reverted to their standard procedures. The Krillians were having a field day. "How bad is it?" 15 merchant ships attacked in the last week. The Council fleet hasn't caught a single raider. 3 systems away, the Zethran agricultural crisis was becoming impossible to ignore. Their crops were failing at an alarming rate. Lim Tay had been their primary agricultural engineer for 4 years, and his absence was now painfully obvious. The farming machines that humans had designed required constant adjustment. Soil conditions changed daily. Weather patterns shifted. Plant diseases evolved. Human engineers had monitored thousands of variables and made tiny corrections that kept everything running smoothly. The Zethrans were excellent farmers, but they followed established procedures. When the machines started producing different results, they didn't know how to adapt. When crop yields began falling, they tried the same solutions that had worked before. When those failed, they sent increasingly desperate messages to abandoned human facilities. "Automatic response received from Human Agricultural Station Delta 7, reported the Zethran Agricultural Minister. "It says, 'Thank you for your message. Humans are now restricted to mining operations. We wish you well.' "Can we hire human consultants privately?" asked his assistant. "We tried. All human agricultural experts have left Council space. We don't even know where they went." The Zethran crop yields had fallen by 30% and were still dropping. Food prices across their empire were rising daily. Riots had broken out on 3 planets. Hanbi tracked the cascading failures from her intelligence post in the Cygnus arm. The patterns were becoming clear, and they were worse than she had expected. The Council had never realized how deeply human innovation had been integrated into their infrastructure. Communication networks across the galaxy were slowing down. The quantum relay systems that enabled faster-than-light messaging had been designed with human engineering principles. Without human technicians to maintain them, signal quality was degrading. What used to take minutes now took hours. Manufacturing efficiency was plummeting on dozens of worlds. Human process optimization had increased productivity across the galaxy. Human engineers had studied alien manufacturing techniques and found ways to make them better. Without those improvements, factories were producing less while using more resources. Even medical facilities were struggling. Human doctors had worked alongside alien physicians for years, sharing techniques and developing new treatments. Human medical research had led to breakthroughs in treating diseases that affected multiple species. Now that knowledge was gone, and patients were suffering. The Vrex faced the most severe consequences of all. They had pushed hardest for human restrictions, claiming that humans were too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. Now they were learning exactly how much they had depended on that same technology. Their mining operations had relied entirely on human expertise for deep crust extraction. Osu had been their chief geological engineer, and his team had developed techniques for reaching mineral deposits that were previously impossible to access. The Vrex economy was built on selling rare metals from deep planetary cores. Without human knowledge, their largest mining facilities simply stopped working. The extraction equipment was still there, but no one understood how to operate it safely. Attempts to continue mining without proper oversight led to 3 major accidents. In the first month, "We need to contact the humans immediately," declared the Vrex Mining Council. "Offer them whatever they want. Double their salaries, triple them." But the humans were gone, and no one knew where to find them. The few messages that got through to human space received the same polite response. Humanity wishes the Council well in its future endeavors. The Vrex economy, built on resource extraction, began to crumble. Unemployment rose as mines shut down. Tax revenues collapsed as mining companies went bankrupt. The government that had been so eager to restrict human activities now faced economic disaster. The military situation grew worse each day. The Hive-born Collective, a hostile entity that had been contained beyond Council borders for decades, began testing their defenses. Their scout ships probed deeper into Council space, and every encounter revealed the same problem. Without human strategic thinking, Council forces were predictable and vulnerable. The Hive-born were a collective consciousness that had always struggled against human unpredictability. Human tactics were creative, adaptive, impossible to predict. Humans would try strategies that made no logical sense and somehow make them work. Now the Council forces fought by the book. They followed established procedures. They used approved tactics. The Hive-born collective mind analyzed their patterns and found them laughably easy to counter. Council Fleet Command to all units, came the transmission. Hive-born forces have broken through the defensive line in Sector 15. Retreat to secondary positions. Xin Wu monitored the battle reports from humanity's listening posts. He had once been the Council's most valued military advisor. He had trained their officers, developed their strategies, helped them understand that sometimes the best battle plan was to throw out the battle plan. Now he watched them lose engagement after engagement. They had firepower. They had numbers. They had good equipment. But they fought like machines, and the Hive-born Collective was very good at fighting machines. The Council sent envoys to the edge of human space. They carried offers of negotiation, promises of better treatment, requests for technical assistance. They found only automated border stations with the same message. "Thank you for your visit. Humanity wishes you well." No coordinates for human colonies. No way to contact human leadership. No path back to the partnership they had thrown away. The envoys returned to the Council with a disturbing report. "They're really gone," the lead diplomat announced. "We can't find them. We can't contact them. We can't even figure out where they went." "Surely they'll respond to economic incentives," suggested the Zethran representative. "Everyone has a price." "They're not answering our calls," the envoy replied. "We broadcast offers on every frequency. Better trade deals, technology sharing, agreements, equal representation in the Council. They either can't hear us or they're choosing not to respond." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For the first time in galactic history, a species had simply walked away, not declared war, not issued ultimatums, not made demands. They had just left. And now the galaxy was beginning to understand exactly what it had lost. 6 months after the human exodus, the galaxy was falling apart. Imna compiled the daily intelligence reports from humanity's hidden listening posts, documenting the systematic collapse of Council infrastructure. The numbers painted a picture that would have been unbelievable just a year ago. The galactic trade network had lost 40% of its efficiency. Ships took longer to reach their destinations because the navigation systems humans had optimized were failing. Cargo handling at stations was slower without human logistics expertise. Even basic commerce between species had become more difficult because humans had served as universal translators and cultural bridges. Scientific research had ground to a halt. The great laboratories that had pushed the boundaries of knowledge for centuries were producing nothing new. Without human theoretical physicists to ask the right questions and human engineers to build impossible devices, alien scientists found themselves stuck with the same old ideas. "Status report on the Krillian situation?" Imna asked her aide. "Getting worse. They've taken over 4 trade routes completely. The Council fleet can't even find them, let alone stop them." The Council's desperation was growing with each passing day. Their first attempts at negotiation had been formal and dignified, official envoys with written proposals. Now they were broadcasting messages on every known human frequency, practically begging for a response. Hong Dal, humanity's former deputy ambassador, received these messages at his desk in the Vale Nebula Command Center. He had served the Council faithfully for 6 years, believing that cooperation between species was possible. The final vote had proved him wrong. Another message from the Zethran High Council, his assistant reported. They're offering to restore full human rights and representation, also technology sharing agreements and exclusive trade partnerships. Hongdal read the message with bemused interest. Send the standard response. Thank you for your correspondence. Humanity wishes you well in its future endeavors. The offers kept escalating. The Vrex Mining Consortium offered humans a 50% share in all mining profits. The Andorian Trade Federation promised exclusive agricultural contracts worth trillions of credits. Even the proud Malari, who had never acknowledged any species as equals, offered to make humans full partners in their star empire. Each message received the same polite response. Thank you for your correspondence. Humanity wishes you well. Quan. Sue monitored the psychological profiles of council leadership from the research stations hidden in dark nebulas. The aliens were experiencing something their species had never encountered before: abandonment without animosity. When species fought wars, they could understand it. When trade partners made demands, they could negotiate. When enemies made threats, they could respond with force. But humans had done none of these things. They had simply accepted the Council's decision and left. The absence of human anger was somehow more devastating than any military defeat could have been. The aliens kept waiting for demands, ultimatums, or attacks that never came. The silence was driving their leadership to desperation. Psychological analysis shows increasing stress markers among all Council species, Quan Su reported. They're experiencing what our researchers call abandonment anxiety. They can't understand why we won't fight back. The breaking point came when the Hive-born collective launched a full-scale invasion of Council space. Their ships poured through the outer defenses like water through a broken dam. Without human strategic doctrine, the Council forces fell back in chaos. The Hive-born were a collective consciousness that thought and moved as one entity. For decades, they had been contained because human military advisors understood how to fight them. Humans were unpredictable individuals who could think outside the collective mind's expectations. Now the Council fought with rigid formations and predictable tactics. Their officers followed established procedures and approved strategies. The best Hive-born collective found them laughably easy to counter. Park Young watched the battle reports from humanity's deep space monitoring stations. She had once worked with Council military leaders, helping them understand that sometimes the best strategy was to do something that made no sense. Now she watched them lose battle after battle, using perfectly logical tactics. They're trying to fight a collective mind with committee decisions, she observed. It's like watching someone try to catch lightning with a net. The Council lost 3 major star systems in the first week of fighting. Their fleets retreated in confusion, unable to adapt to an enemy that anticipated their every move. Refugee ships fled deeper into Council space as the Hive-born advance continued. In desperation, the Council sent their final message to humanity. It arrived on all human frequencies simultaneously, broadcast with maximum power to ensure it reached every human settlement in the galaxy. Ambassador Kang Wu's face appeared on the message screen. He looked older now, but his eyes were calmer than Hong Dal remembered. The stress of fighting for human dignity in an alien government was gone. We were wrong, Kang Wu said simply. We see that now. The galaxy needs human creativity, human adaptability, human thinking. Please come back. Help us fight the Hive-born. Help us save civilization. For the first time since the Exodus began, humanity responded directly. Ambassador Kang Wu's image appeared on every Council communication screen across their embattled territory. Hong Dal had helped prepare the response, choosing each word carefully. The Council voted to restrict humanity to mining operations, Kang Wu said calmly. We have complied with that decision. The galaxy survived for millions of years before humanity joined the galactic community. It will survive without us. We wish you luck in your future endeavors." The transmission ended, and the great silence resumed. The council representatives stared at their screens in shock. Even now, facing complete destruction, the humans wouldn't save them. The species they had dismissed as too young and dangerous had simply walked away and left them to face the consequences of their choices. "Send another message," demanded the Vrex representative. "Offer them complete control of Council military forces. Offer them anything." But the communication arrays were already failing. Human engineers had designed most of the long-range communication systems, and without maintenance they were breaking down. Messages that should have reached human space in minutes now took hours if they arrived at all. In the outer systems, entire populations began fleeing toward the galactic core. The hive-born advance was unstoppable, and everyone knew it. The Council's mighty fleet, which had once maintained peace across thousands of worlds, was in full retreat. On their hidden stations, humans watched the collapse with mixed emotions. These were the same aliens who had shared meals with them, worked alongside them, called them friends. But they were also the ones who had voted to restrict human freedom because they feared human potential. "Should we do something?" asked a young officer. "People are dying." Hongdal considered the question. The Council made their choice. They believed the galaxy would be better without human influence. Now they get to see if they were right. The reports continued to come in. The Hiveborn had taken 6 systems now. Council resistance was crumbling everywhere. Refugee ships streamed toward the core worlds, carrying stories of worlds consumed by the collective mind. And from human space, there was only silence. The aliens had wanted to put humanity in its place. They had succeeded. Humanity's place, it turned out, was wherever they chose to be, and they had chosen to be somewhere else. 2 years after humanity's departure, the galaxy had stabilized into a new and very different configuration. The Council, reduced to 1/3 of its former territory after the Hiveborn War, struggled to maintain relevance among the surviving worlds. Seohan observed their attempts at rebuilding from humanity's thriving colonies in the Perseus Arm, noting how desperately they tried to recreate human innovations with limited success. The Council's scientists had spent months trying to reverse engineer human technology from the equipment left behind. They had the machines, but not the understanding. They could see what humans had built, but not how they had thought. Every attempt to improve upon human designs failed because they approached problems the way their species always had: methodically, predictably, safely. Humanity, meanwhile, had thrived in isolation. Li Yu led the new colonial development program, establishing settlements that pushed the boundaries of human engineering and creativity. Without Council restrictions holding them back, human scientists made breakthrough discoveries at a pace that amazed even themselves. "The new FTL drive is ready for testing," Li Yu reported to the Colonial Council. "We're seeing efficiency improvements of 300% over anything the Council ever achieved." Yang Su had pioneered the breakthrough by asking a simple question: what if they stopped trying to make FTL travel safe and predictable? The Council's approach to faster-than-light movement was to carefully calculate every variable and minimize all risks. Humans decided to embrace the chaos instead. Their new drive didn't fight the unpredictable nature of hyperspace. It danced with it. Human pilots learned to read the cosmic currents and surf the gravitational waves that Council scientists had always tried to avoid. The result was travel that was faster, more efficient, and more exciting than anything the galaxy had seen. But the most remarkable change was in human society itself. Ko Min documented the psychological transformation in her anthropological studies. Freed from the constant need to prove themselves worthy of Council acceptance, humans had rediscovered their pioneering spirit. They explored dangerous nebulas that Council ships avoided. They contacted strange entities that Council regulations forbade. They developed technologies that prioritized human values rather than galactic bureaucratic approval. For the first time in years, humans were being truly human again. Stress levels. are down 60% across all human colonies, Co-Min reported. Depression and anxiety rates have dropped to the lowest levels in recorded history. People are happy again. The transformation had been almost immediate. Within months of leaving Council space, human children were laughing more. Human artists were creating works of unprecedented beauty. Human scientists were asking questions that no one had thought to ask before. They had forgotten how much energy they had been spending trying to fit into an alien society that didn't want them. Zhang Ha established first contact with the ethereal commune, a collection of energy-based beings that had always avoided the Council's rigid materialism. These entities existed in higher dimensions and had watched the galactic community for millennia without ever joining it. Your species interests us, the ethereals communicated through quantum fluctuations that human scientists had learned to interpret. You choose freedom over security, growth over comfort, possibility over certainty. The partnership with the ethereals opened up realms of existence the Council had never imagined. Together, humans and energy beings began exploring dimensional engineering, consciousness transfer, and technologies that bordered on what Council species would call magic. They're teaching us to think in 11 dimensions, Zhang Ha explained, to the fascinated Colonial Council. Human creativity combined with their understanding of higher mathematics is producing results neither of us could achieve alone. The Council had always been afraid of humanity's unpredictable nature. The ethereal celebrated it. They had been waiting for a species that could think beyond the three-dimensional limitations that trapped most material beings. Moon A tracked the domino effect as other species began following humanity's example. The younger races had watched the human exodus with great interest. They saw how humans had chosen dignity over submission, and they liked what they saw. The Palaxians were the first to leave. They had been restricted to agricultural support roles by the Council, despite their obvious intelligence and creativity. 6 months after the human exodus, they quietly departed Council space to establish their own colonies. The Thorians followed, then the Velki, then the Zephyrins. One by one, species that had been marginalized by the Council's hierarchy chose independence over subjugation. Each departure weakened the Council further and inspired others to consider their own freedom. It's becoming a movement, Moon A reported. The younger species are calling it the human way. They're learning that sometimes walking away is more powerful than fighting. The Council tried to stop the exodus by offering better terms to the remaining species, but the damage was done. The example of human independence had shown others that the Council's authority only existed as long as species chose to accept it. 5 years after walking away, humanity received a final message from the remnants of the Council. It wasn't a plea for return or a demand for aid. It wasn't even a trade proposal or a military alliance offer. Baek Jin archived the message alongside humanity's response. The Council's final communication was simple. We understand now. We were wrong to try to limit any species' potential. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to find our own paths among the stars. Farewell. For the first time, there was no attempt to negotiate or bargain, no hidden agenda or conditional offers. Just acknowledgement that different species might have different destinies. Humanity's response was equally simple. Thank you. We hope you find your own path to the stars. The universe is full of wonders for those brave enough to seek them. The exchange marked the end of an era. The great galactic civilization that had tried to impose order on the chaos of space was gone. In its place, dozens of smaller communities pursued their own visions of what life among the stars could be. Some species, like the ancient Malari, chose isolation and contemplation. Others, like the energetic Palaxians, formed new alliances based on shared interests rather than imposed hierarchy. The ethereals welcomed several species into their multidimensional experiments. And humanity? Humanity did what humans did best. They explored, they experimented, they asked impossible questions and found improbable answers. They welcomed anyone who wanted to join them, but forced no one to follow their path. The galaxy was vast enough for everyone to find their place among the stars. They just needed the courage to walk away from those who would diminish them. In the end, humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They hadn't imposed their will on alien species or forced their values on unwilling partners. They had simply shown others that there was another way to live. Sometimes the greatest victory wasn't winning the fight. Sometimes it was choosing not to fight at all. Sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was walk away with dignity, leaving others to face the consequences of their choices. The galaxy was a bigger place now, full of species pursuing their own dreams among infinite stars. And in the Perseus arm, humanity built their new civilization on a simple principle. Everyone deserves the freedom to become what they choose to be. The Council had fallen not because humanity destroyed it, but because humanity had outgrown it. And in outgrowing it, they had shown others that growth was possible. The stars were still there waiting. And now, finally, everyone was free to reach for them.